Pedersen, oh, it's 1-0 Blues! What a header that is! Christian Pedersen with a bullet header.
It's then floated towards the back post, Jukovic in there, Jukovic! Oh, what a header! This man is on red-hot form at St Andrews at the moment.
And it goes again towards the towering Zigic. Oh, confusion at Martins has surely scored the winning goal for Birmingham City.
Hello and welcome to Blues Talk, your official Birmingham City podcast with Dale Moon and myself, Callum Denning. It's been a very busy summer so far at St Andrews Trillion Trophy Stadium with 9 new faces through the door so far. And today we're joined by the very first, defender George Friend is our guest this week. As well as that, we take a look back on a promising start to the season with 4 points taken from a possible 6, as well as looking ahead to the visit of Rotherham United this weekend in your Blues TV Big Match Preview. And finally, we'll answer the question on everybody's lips. Do we know the way to San Jose?
The Blues Talk podcast with Dale Moon and Callum Denning.
Well, we spent some time in the last podcast, Dale, talking about how 6 new faces had arrived at Blues, and Neil Everidge immediately made that out of date, so cheers. He's been joined since by Scott Hogan from that club round the corner and Athletic Bilbao's Mikel San Jose. Let's briefly talk about what each of them bring to the side, and we'll start with a man that you know very well and caused a little bit of a frenzy about on Twitter accidentally a month ago. Neil Everidge.
It was one I think there was. The club had been looking at it for a while. I think they were trying to get this over the line. Everybody knew, didn't they? We were after a goalkeeper. Lee Camp obviously leaving at the end of the season. Conor Truman going out on loan fairly early in the off-season meant that it was just young Zach, and we were in the market. Of course, Andreas comes in. I think everyone's wondering, is he the one or the number one? Will he get given the number 1 shirt? Or will we have another goalkeeper come through the doors? Obviously working with him before, I was pestering him for a bit. And it's I think we followed each other on all of our social media channels. We got to know him really well, and then fans obviously picked up that we followed each other, and they thought that it just came about because we were signing
2 and 2 making 5.
Yeah, that's it. But no, it's good news. I think from put personal friendships aside, a goalkeeper with vast experience, been to the Premier League, knows what it takes to form a proper dressing room. He was part of I remember him saying when he was there that Warnock dressing room at Cardiff was one where they were all together working in the same direction. Real strong characters in there. Went to the Premier League, saved 2 penalties in his first 2 games. Won Player of the Season in the Premier League. Massive following from the Philippines because obviously representing them, the first Southeast Asian to play in the Premier League. And someone at 31 years old who still has his best years in front of him, I think. As a goalkeeper's peak around this stage, good stature about him, powerful shot stopper. So from a sheer professional goalkeeping point of view, I think it's a really good signing.
And I think we've already seen as well, haven't we, at Swansea, the impact that having a goalkeeper with that experience and ability can bring to the side. That saved right the death.
Yeah, and he hadn't had a lot to do up until that point. I think it's the measure of a goalkeeper a lot of the time when they're watching the game and they're trying to stay switched on and focused. And talking to him after, and Scotty, the goalkeeper coach, and you'd want him to make that save, but then to get it out of trouble, to not bat it back into oncoming traffic. I think RU's poised at the 6-yard box to tap one in if it doesn't go anywhere other than wide of the goal. Comes through a few bodies, and like you say, they are worthy of points. I think you look at right at the very top of the game in the Premier League at the moment, all the stuff with Chelsea and how Alisson's made a huge difference at Liverpool. They can save you points, and I think, like you say, we saw that with 10 minutes to go. We were worthy of the point, but he still, when he was called into action, the one big moment that you want your keeper to make a save, he was there.
Right, to the other end of the pitch, and a man that we all know very well after last season, Scott Hogan, back in blue.
Yeah, I don't know what you thought about his interviews. I thought it was really refreshing again with his honesty. He come back and admitted himself it was Jekyll and Hyde last year, as it was for many of the lads. But pre and post lockdown, he almost divides them up into 2 separate seasons. The Scott Hogan that we saw pre-lockdown, 7 goals in 9, I think it ended up being. Was electric, wasn't he? I mean, he first came in and he was on fire, with buzzing in and around Lukas Jukovic, running off the shoulder, stretching teams. It's what we've been lacking the whole season, and he really did deliver a new dimension for us in the way we could play. meant that the opposition defences couldn't be as high as they were up against Dukey, and was getting his goals. There was a lot of poacher goals in there. It was tapping from 6 yards out. There was, one against QPR, he's lifted it over the goalkeeper. There's some neat finishes in there as well. You think of Barnsley and the volley against Sheffield Wednesday. So, he was scoring from all areas of the 18-yard box. A man on fire. Lockdown hits. He comes back, and then I think there's a combination of a few things. Pep obviously announced he was on his way out. Then the team weren't creating as many chances. We weren't, in command of games. We were on the back foot a lot of the time. He was cut a frustrated figure, I think, as well. In the latter stages, who's been pulled off and replaced by some younger lads, and probably a experienced professional like Scott. He weren't happy with it. Admits himself that he let it get to him. He had a frank conversation with Craig Gardner, and I think, he pointed out that you can't let those things get to you, the frustration of not scoring, but he admitted that, he wasn't good enough himself. So if we can get the pre-lockdown Scott Hogan back in, then we've got one hell of a player on our hands.
Midas touch. I think, speaking about Scott's interview, it's like when we spoke to Harley, isn't it, the other week, that just after lockdown, things weren't clicking for anybody. And I think, like you said, he's the first to admit that he struggled in that kind of atmosphere.
I think so, yeah, especially for strikers, because they're the ones that are, dependent on your teammates' supply line, and because he wasn't getting that, you didn't see the best of Scott Hogan. A lot of frustration in the ranks, just like you say, the whole cloud that was over the club post-lockdown. Hopefully, that's banished now. Harley, I'm sure, would have spoken to Scotty, the Brentford connection, and they're good friends off the pitch as well, and told him that, new gaffer, a lot of new faces in, he's going to get chances, and, you're starting to see a little bit of depth in areas now. Aitor Karanka, I'm sure we'll come on to it, but there's a bit more than cautious optimism starting to build at the club.
Yeah, it's scary, the depth. And one man who added to it, that came out of absolutely nowhere, Mikel San Jose. I mean, hell of a coup.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'll be brutally honest, I can't say I'm familiar with him before the speculation, before Twitter and...
I think it's looking at his pedigree, isn't it, more than anything?
Yeah, so we're going off purely his CV. 10 years in La Liga. He's, 8 appearances for his national team. Not just any national team, but away. Spain, who obviously have a massive pool of talent.
In their golden era as well.
Yeah, in a position where you are with your Busquets and those at the very top of their game. Very proud to be from the Basque region. As with all Bilbao players, only wanted to play for them, didn't want to play for any other team in Spain. If you believe the reports, he'd had offers to stay in La Liga, to stay in Spain. But I mean, I'm gonna say it, without Aitor Karanka, this signing doesn't happen.
Agreed.
And that's what you get with a high-profile, experienced manager like the gaffer. But yeah, you look at him, you'd imagine the versatility of being able to play at centre-back, though if you're going off his first interview with Blues TV, he sees himself still as a central midfielder. Fine. He's got that competition for places now, as, Aitor's going to play 4-2-3-1. Part of those two, Clayton, Sunjic, now you have San Jose, Kifton Bell-Davis, there's a number of bodies in there. You'd imagine the gaffer may well look at trimming the squad. He said before on record he doesn't like having a huge squad, so speculating at this stage, but you'd imagine he's going to try and see if there's bodies going out the door just to make sure that there's competition for places. But it's tough when you've got so many numbers as players sitting there not playing, to keep the happy camp is near impossible. So yeah, I think he's, I'm guessing without seeing him, apart from the goal against Barcelona, you'd think he'd be neat and tidy on the ball, wouldn't you? He's a very rangy. I went and filmed his first training session. Tall, slender figure. I think a lot of the Spanish kids who do come over, Spanish lads, they're not used to being powerful in the gym, and it's all very much about aerobic fitness and honing your skills with the ball at your feet. He's going to be neat and tidy. I mean, going off a few of the Bilbao fans saying the biggest threat is aerially now. I think in both boxes, likes to attack the ball in the opposition box, which is good. I mean, we're not just veering off slightly. I looked at our team coming out against Swansea, and I felt like we were a team of men.
Yeah.
You look at them now, and maybe it was the inexperience towards the tail end of last year. When you contrast that with Pedersen, Friend, Dean, Clayton, Sunjic, Jukovic, there are, there's some big lads in there as well. Gardner, and we look like a team of experienced men. And he's only going to add to that with his age and all of his experience. So let's wait and see. I'm actually quite looking forward to seeing what he is and what he's gonna be when he's out there.
Do we want to talk about the reveal video? Because that seemed to go down quite well on Twitter. You've got Neil Everidge sat in a bus stop, which I think was many people's highlights, other than the obvious Mikel San Jose.
Yeah, with the wrong number on.
Yeah,
on his back.
There's a story.
You know what? He's they're always edgy, these ideas, and I think the big challenge is you're not going to please everybody. It's not going to be everyone's taste, and we know that when we're going to put these ideas together. But these are good news stories. Essentially, you're making transfers and bringing additions to the squad, and it's all a positive. So I think you can afford to be a little bit more edgy. And obviously the famous song, which I weren't that aware of before. And
Colin Tatum gets the credit for that one.
But when I first listened to it, I thought it reminded me of those cheesy 70s taxi style programs where they go for a bit of a casting call, and so an idea was born, and Joe, to his credit, part of the Blues TV team who edited the piece, ran with it, and we all chipped in with little tweaks and ideas, and then the final product I think was way out there, but I think it was a good enough story in that signing a high profile player for us to be a bit more edgy, and I think it's been received well.
It's just going with the tone, isn't it? That feel good factor that's around these signings. You look back even to when our guest this week, George Friend, signed the first this summer. That feeling has started to creep into the club, and I think we're just kind of going with it.
Yeah, I think so. Just riding that wave of optimism a little bit, and it's amazing when you're part of a football club, and picking your moments and your tone and stuff is so important, because you can put the same piece of content out, but if the results aren't there, if the mood around the club is off, then that very same piece of content can be received completely differently. So it is about picking your moments. That's the 9th signing of the summer now, so creative juices are in short supply. But at the same time, it's been good to get some fresh faces through the door, generate that little bit of excitement, and get a couple of good results, because ultimately that's all it boils down to, a real good start on the pitch as well.
Well, let's talk about those results, starting with, I think there's no disputing the perfect start at St Andrews, a repeat of last season, a 1-0 win over Brentford.
Yeah, we spoke to Harley, didn't we, beforehand? He was keen to get off to a quick start for obvious reasons. And I thought we saw both sides of the coin from Blues on that opening day. First half, we played some really good football and took the game to Brentford. Let's be honest, they're going to have chances. I think Mwemo's had 2 or 3 real gilt-edged ones. They've hit the post. He's blazed one over into the Tilton when he should have done a lot better. But I thought we put some real good passages together. John Terrell zinging one over his shoulder, and little triangles. Sanchez looked really bright. The first chance for us to take a close look at him, and he looked like he'd settled in and looked right at home.
Adam Clayton as well, some of those diagonal balls.
Yeah, starting to dictate from deep. So there was lots of positives in the first half, and then second half, credit to Brentford, they started to dominate, put the pressure on, but we saw George Friend, Harley Dean, and the whole of the back line, and those in front of them, just start from the top, put in a right shift to get us over the line. Jeremy Bella obviously scores the goal from a set piece, which is good. We've obviously been an Achilles heel of ours over the last season, conceding set pieces, so good to see us profit from one. Howie was allowed to run from the far end of the 18-yard box to the near post, and nobody has even tracked him, but still has to guide it in neatly. So he's up and running, which do his confidence good. And yeah, we held on with some real dogged, gritty, determined defending, and that's the Blues that we're used to seeing now. I think everyone said when Aitor Karanka came in that's what you're going to expect. You're going to have 1-0s. You're going to have one. If you can get yourself in front, he'll get you organised. And I think we saw that against Brentford. Managed to score first in the game, which was crucial. Then we saw just real determination to pick up the 3 points. And like you say, against the playoff finalists last season, it's perfect start.
And they're going to be right up there. I think a pivotal moment as well that a lot of people kind of lost in the aftermath of the game. Zach Jaycock double save on his professional debut, which no pressure.
You know what? Fair play to Zach, because Neil Effridge had come in the day before.
Yep.
So the big decision to go with Zach, 19, making your senior debut. Got high hopes for Zach. Great size about him, big tall lad, agile, already been picked up by his country at development levels. Everyone knows the story of him being an outfield player till he was 14, so it was obviously a late transition to goalkeeper for him. But smashing kid and real ability as well. He did not look out of place at all. You wouldn't have said, without doing your research, if you'd have watched that game, you wouldn't have thought he was the nervy teenage goalkeeper for his first appearance. He looked assured, his kicking was good, his distribution, and as you say, we've talked about Neil Etheridge making big saves, but the double from Zach Jaycock as well was crucial. So credit to him as well, and his attitude since after what happened at Swansea and the gaffer opting to go with Neil Etheridge has been fantastic. So real one for the future, I think.
Right, start with one playoff contender. The fixtures didn't get any easier. We went straight down to another in South Wales.
I didn't actually realise when the fixtures were out that it was such a tricky start, actually. But to go to Swansea, who we traditionally have been awful against for one reason or another. They always dominate the ball. But in that sense, it's quite similar to Brentford in a way. Although Swansea played 3 at the back, I thought tactically we got it spot on, and it was crucial for us. I think if you watch it back and really do your geeky analysis on it, Ivan Sanchez was pressing their left-sided centre-half, not their full-back, not their wing-back. So what that meant was they were trying to shift the ball from one side to the other, and they were already closed down, and we were almost jumping on them inside their own half. And I think there was a few turnovers and transitions in possession in that first half where we were robbing them inside the Swansea half. They started bright. First 5-10 minutes, I thought it's another trip here where we're backs against the wall. And I think I tweeted at half-time, there's a temptation when you go to Swansea to sit very deep, to try and defend for your lives and maybe nick it from a set piece. It wasn't that kind of 0-0 draw. It was a really good goalless draw where two teams were trying to win the game. Tactically, it was a bit of a chess match because of the differences in formation. But I thought we gave as good as we got on the day. We've gone close with a couple of set pieces, haven't we? Harley's header straight at the goalkeeper. Jeremy Bella's had a header. John Terrell went close in the first half before being chokeslammed at half-time.
We'll talk about that in a second.
Well worth the point that we got, and extends this little bit of a run now we're starting to put together. I'm saying this all before Rotherham at home.
2 games in.
But, without conceding a goal against 2 tough opposition, positive starts at least.
I think one of the overwhelmingly positive signs from that Swansea game is that we actually created more and the better of the chances.
That's the thing. They had a lot of the ball. I think they've whizzed a couple across our box, haven't they? Apart from the Etheridge save 10 minutes before the end. As we're saying after, it's not as if he's been forced into a string of saves. There was a little bit to last-ditch defending, perhaps. But I can't remember too often they haven't littered our goals with attempts. So another positive is, again, the back four doing their job. Pedersen and Maxime Collin look back to being at their best. The two in front done a fantastic job. Tough when the gaffers got Dan Crowley, Scott Hogan, Gary Gardner all there to make changes at the right time. But that is what we're saying about building a squad now. With all respect to the young lads at Championship level, you want to look to your bench to players who are going to come on and change it, not because they give fresh legs, but also they have the ability to impact the game. And you look, Dan Crowley with his creativity, Scott Hogan, completely different to Lucas Jukovic. We wanted to go down a different route. Gary Gardner with his bursting direct runs from the middle of the park. You're now looking at experienced pros on your bench, which is what we didn't have last year.
So Leicester last week, let's go well off topic, unveiled a player by channeling The Undertaker, putting his coat and his hat on the pitch. Swansea, very impressive. They went one step further and actually put him on their bench.
Yeah, amazing, wasn't it, the incident at half-time? I mean, I actually didn't see it in real time. I heard the commotion, and then you start having a look down the stand. But having spoken to John Terrell since the game, felt he was defending Ivan Sanchez, whose English isn't great.
Yeah.
I think it stems from the Blues not putting the ball out of play. And so they took issue with that right on the stroke of half-time. Wasn't a head injury, so well within our rights to play on.
Absolutely.
Then obviously the half-time whistle blows. Ivan and John are trotting towards the tunnel. They get confronted, and I think John Terrell preempted the bit of a confrontation, stepped in front of Ivan Sanchez to sort of defend his fellow Spaniard whose English isn't great and wouldn't have understood what the accusation was anyway. And ends up getting a hand to the throat. Goes down very easily. I'm going to tell him that, probably too easily.
He'll be the first to admit that, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's not going to get a free kick for that one. But at the same time, you can't do it. And I think the FA have since obviously said they're going to investigate. And just a very bizarre. I don't know what made him think he could get away with it in today's era where there's a camera at every seat almost in every stand. So
tell you what though, that camera couldn't have been better placed for the incident.
Yeah, I know, it's such a shame we tweeted it out at half time as well to let the
Tom
world
Ross
know.
and Kevin Broadhurst reacting live.
Yeah, well that's it. So I mean, the best thing that I liked from it was the gaffer's response after the game, listening to his post-match with Tats. He was asked his thoughts on what had happened, and he got in at half-time. And I think it was about not letting that distract the players, because it was a game that was on a knife edge. It could have gone either way, and we had to be really on it, really focused. And they all knew their jobs really well against Swansea. You could see tactically they got it spot on. And he didn't want that little handbags, whatever it was, to form a distraction going into the second half. And credit to the boys, they came out, picked up where they left off. And as I say, well worthy of a point.
Absolutely. Well, we'll come on to our match against Rotherham this weekend in just a moment. But first, want to bring in our guest for this week. First signing of the summer. Came a bit out of nowhere, but of course previous with the gaffer.
Yeah, that was it, wasn't it? We filmed a radio close-up and started playing songs with the word friend in. But yeah, when we caught wind of this one, I think it was an obvious signing to make. Tried and trusted. The gaffer had obviously worked with him before. Vast experience at championship level. My memories of George playing against us was that energetic left back going up and down the left hand side, converts to a centre half in the last year. Gives you that natural balance being a left footer, but what a smashing guy as well. And anyone who meets him, your first impressions are genuinely, welcoming, sort of stand-up guy. All the reports coming out of Middlesbrough reflected that. I think they were saying he's been the impact as much as it's been on the pitch. He's had he left a real legacy off it in the way he's conducted himself and represented the football club. And he also fits the bill of getting the right characters in the dressing room. He's a leader. I think we saw that against Swansea in particular. Could hear him against Brentford, and many people highlighted, him waving teammates over to celebrate as one, as a squad, which I liked. But also at Swansea, when it was backs against the wall at times, he was there, and many people's man of the match at the weekend. So real addition to not just what he brings in terms of being able to play left back, centre half, his experience, but is a great addition to the dressing room dynamic as well.
The Blues Talk Podcast.
Well, George Friend, thank you ever so much for joining us on Blues Talk. You are our second guest of the season. So, appreciate you taking the time out after training. I suppose the obvious question is, how are you settling into your new home at the football club? You look right at home already.
Yeah, settled in really well. It's a credit to everyone here, really, because all the lads have made me feel very welcome, but not just that, all the staff and people like yourselves as well. So, no, it's really good to be here, and it's pleasing we got a good start as well, because that definitely helps. Yeah.
As we sit here, I mean, we've brought in 9 of the summer so far, but you were the first.
Yeah.
It feels like you've been here for ages now, and actually you haven't.
No.
But I suppose that again is a good sign that clearly you settled right in, and good couple of results that's helped out really. But the whole mood around the place this summer, I know you won't be familiar with it because you obviously weren't here, but just feels like a completely different club, which I think is a testament to what you and the new boys have brought in as well.
Yeah, a few of the lads that have been here a while have said that, and there's sort of an undertone of optimism, which is good, and change probably was needed. And it's not just at this club, but at lots of clubs, because when you haven't finished the season so well, so to have the manager that's come in and all his staff, but then a lot of fresh faces, I hope it can add something. And I think the characters are important as well. It's not just all about the playing, it's about around the place, and I'm pleased to hear that. Hopefully it's a positive environment, because that carries a lot of weight, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about the senior players that he's brought in. You look at the average ages of the players that the Gaffer's brought in.
I'm certainly one of the senior ones. Yeah, thanks for highlighting that.
But these are players that have been there and done it and experienced success in their career. How important do you think that is to a dressing room, to have those sorts of characters in there who know what it's like to stay the course at this level?
I think it's good to have a mix. I mean, I've been in dressing rooms where it's all senior players and it actually doesn't work, and you think, oh great, all that experience, but you need the youthfulness as well, and it sounds stupid and sounds obvious, but you also need those guys in the middle of their career that I'd consider probably in their prime. And I look at people like Christian Pedersen, people like that are really coming into their prime, I'd say, at their age. I'm sure there's many others that I haven't mentioned, but I think getting that blend is really important, and it's often not by chance. It is the manager, the recruitment department, everyone looking to find that blend, and ultimately you've got to go and do it on the pitch. But like I said before, in the dressing room, if that's right, then it does go a long way. talking to senior players, I'm just trying to think, am I the oldest in the squad?
You know what? When you said
I think
that,
I actually am.
is there older than a 32?
Let's have a look, see what we can
I'm
pull
33 next month, so
I think you're by some stretch the oldest.
So I don't know if that's good. I've just highlighted that.
Effers is 31. Dukey's
Evers
31.
is about 15. So he's,
So I think you are, mate.
There's a few that might look older, but I probably am the oldest.
But let's talk a little bit about our start. I mean, everything was good going into the opening day of the season, but when you do host the playoff finalists with all the quality that they do have, you're never too sure where you are, especially after the Cambridge result, because clearly it wasn't the start everyone wanted. But to keep a clean sheet, to keep them out and to win the game, it just gives everyone that lift and that little injection of confidence that I think we perhaps needed as a club.
Yeah, I think to do it at home as well, which is, it's been tough at home by all accounts, and it was the same my previous club as well. For some reason couldn't get home wins, and when that builds up it becomes a bigger thing than it actually is. So that's not even a problem now. And yeah, Brentford, whether they're in the playoff final last year, they're always a good side and hard to play against, and we played really well. We rode our luck at times, but actually we did a good job out there, and I thought we were really solid and off the ball looked good especially. So we took that into the next game as well. Didn't quite get the win, but again another clean sheet. It was really pleasing. A lot of fans highlighted your part in the celebration of Jeremy Bella's goal in waving over the rest of the team. Yeah, it has been picked up. It didn't go unnoticed. Is that just something that you naturally like to see your teammates do? You all celebrate together because it is a moment that you've worked for? I guess so. I don't remember doing it consciously. Too much. You always wave the teammates over. Yeah, I think it was just a big moment, wasn't it? And we'd worked hard. I wasn't here for all of pre-season, but I was here for some of it. Worked really hard through pre-season. The game against Cambridge didn't go away, and it was an important goal and a great header actually. So it was important we all celebrated together. But I hadn't really thought about it until you just said it. But maybe I have to keep doing it. Do it now. I have to make sure I do it in the next game. Yeah, you put me under more pressure now. But no, it's just those things like that. That's just the togetherness anyway. It could have been anyone waving the lads in, I'm sure. So to have that togetherness is going to be really important. And as the season progresses and the games are coming thick and fast, everyone's going to need to play. Everyone's going to need to be ready, because it won't be that 11 that played Brentford that necessarily finishes the season. It's always the case. There's a lot of twists and turns to come, and we're only 2 games in.
Such a condensed season as well, isn't it, this year? Yeah, and that's it. And I think until after the international break, when you do get your Tuesdays, Saturdays, then you'll really start to feel the stretch on the squad, the strain on the squad, which is why the gaffer's bringing in up to 9 as we record. On the Swansea game, like you say, didn't quite get the win, but so many positives to come from it. Not just the fact that we created chances at one end, but also Neil Etheridge had to make a big save 10 minutes before that. But it's not a string of saves from him on his debut, which is again testament to those in front of him. And I don't just mean you as a back four. Actually, the whole shape looked pretty good. How much work in the week leading up to Swansea and in the weeks of pre-season, I suppose, does the gaffer like to do in terms of shape, everybody knowing their jobs? Because it seems quite evident, having watched the first few games. Yeah, there's a lot of detail there, and it's what he expects of you. And I think the key thing is it's whoever's playing in that shape, you've got to be able to come in and do it. And it could have been a different 11 or different few within that 11, and they probably would have been able to come in and do the same job. And I think that's what's going to be important. Going back to Evers with that save, it's probably almost harder for him that he didn't have a load of string saves, because he had to be ready for that one important save, and he showed his quality there. I was actually, when I saw that we were signing him, I was delighted, because having played against him, he's frustrated us many a time with his saves and clean sheets. So testament to him as well for pulling out that save and being concentrated. It was a great debut from him. So it's front to back, everyone defending well, and if the goals come as well, it should be a good mix. Yeah. Does it feel like the dynamics in the dressing room are set up for us to have a successful season? There's nothing guaranteed, but you've been at clubs, you've experienced promotions at all levels before. Does that have the hallmarks, at least, of the personalities you'd want to be part of a successful team? Yeah, well, straight away you see there's no bad eggs, as they say, and that's important. I think that the core that have been here for a while, you look at Harley and Duke, Max,
like Robbo, these guys, they're all very settled and have a good influence on the dressing room, and that's an important part of it as well. You need that core there that have been here a while, but it's also the staff as well. On my first day, I realised that some of the medical department had been here 12 years, and it made me think, well, that's a good sign that it's not a different person every year. You need that stability and that consistency, and you can't predict what's going to happen, but those kind of things are going to give you a better chance.
Definitely. We're recording in the lead up to Rotherham at home. The gaffer spoke during the week, said this could be our toughest so far of the three because it's a very different proposition, and you can't really afford to go into it thinking you're better than an opposition just because they're newly promoted. Is that the sort of message that has to reverberate through the dressing room, that there's no room for complacency going into Saturday? Yeah,
I totally agree. I think it will be the hardest test out of the three. Physically, it will be the hardest because they're very direct, and they just put cross after cross into the box. So as a back four, you need to be ready for that. But all over the park, it's going to be fighting for second balls. It's going to be what you consider a proper championship clash. I mean, it is changing a bit, that cliche, because you've got your Swanseas and your Brentfords that will play more. But these are the games that I think you're tested physically, and you need to be right straight away, because otherwise they will punish you, and if you give them anything to hang on to, it's hard to break them down. So they've deserved to be promoted. They're a good club in my eyes because they're well run, and it'll be a tough game. Yeah,
I mean we've spoken about it before, and Brentford and Swansea, they were favourites in our fixtures, and we managed to get results against both of them. So it's not a given that this will be the first game we go into of the year where we are expected to win from an outsider's perspective. But you've been in football long enough to know that very rarely does it work out that way. It's never straightforward, especially in the Championship.
No, and everyone says, Championship is the best league because everyone can beat everyone. I've played pretty much all my career in the I disagree. I don't think it's the best league because of that. I actually think it's you look at the Premier League and those top teams do dominate. The Championship, no one can really grab hold of it, and it makes it the hardest league potentially. But I wouldn't say it's the best because of that. And people get annoyed when I say it, but I actually think, well, if you can take control of it, you are that better team. So maybe if we can, we will be. But it is a real fight at times, and Rotherham will be tight. And credit to them, they're not just guys that lump it. They'll be able to play as well. They've got good players, so it's having that respect, but also knowing that we are a better team, hopefully, and we can show that on the day.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about your relationship with the gaffer. Obviously, he knows you very well. He spoke at length about you and Clay's coming in and what you bring. But tell us a bit about him and what it's like to work under a manager who, of course, is a fantastic CV, both as a player and a manager. What's he like to work under?
Yeah, I think, first of all, when you say about his CV as a player, that speaks volumes, and it doesn't always make you a good manager. You've seen that with managers all over the world, but having played for Real Madrid and Athletic Bilbao, and he's won Champions League, what's good about him is he's able to realise what's needed in the Championship, and obviously the Championship's quite a way off the Champions League and Champions League finals, but he's able to find that formula more often than not, what's required. He's incredibly detailed, organised, he's a good manager, all these things, and that showed at Middlesbrough, and I really hope something similar can happen here at Birmingham.
Yeah, what was that? How did that contact come about when first part of the off-season you were linked with the club?
Just gave me a text. Obviously, when the season finished, end of last season, I was a free agent, although Middlesbrough offered me something and I was trying to work out what to do, and I got a text from him, and then it sort of escalated from there really, and had my medical, and then I was here. So I have family in my wife has family in Birmingham, so that was also a big part and helped with the move, and I actually feel quite refreshed and what's the word? I'm just ready to go, and having been at Middlesbrough for a long time, it was a hard decision, but I'm really pleased I've come here because it's exciting and it's a new start.
Yeah, a few things to pick up from your Q&A that you had with supporters, I think, in your first week. Meeting your other half in Birmingham was an interesting story.
Yeah,
So there's a bit of history in the city already.
It was at the mailbox. Around Christmas, where they put the Christmas. They probably don't do it anymore. But a big Christmas tree up in front of the mailbox, and I was like, meet you there. Not met her before. We didn't get married the next day.
It's a brave move, though. It's a brave move to go blind date.
I got a good recommendation.
You've done your due diligence.
Yeah, exactly. It was a good reference.
Yeah.
The date obviously went well, and then from then on, it's married and kids. So, Birmingham's a very special city for us in terms of that. I think we went to Bar Epinay, which I don't think's around anymore. Because I did check the other day when we were just walking through the mailbox, just because we wanted to see whether it was there anymore, and I don't think it is. But that was where we went, and
here you are.
The rest is history.
There's a film plot in there, isn't there?
Well, if you've gone the years out, it would be the most boring film ever. So I wouldn't rush for that one.
Yeah, and also you've mentioned this before, but they asked you about talking to officials before games, what the thinking is behind it. Can you just shed a bit of light on what you do?
First of all, I don't know if you've noticed it around the training, but I like to know everyone's name anyway, because I think it's important to know everyone's name.
Yeah.
If we're all going to work here, but also on the pitch, I consider the same. Like if I'm going to work for someone for 90 minutes, rather than call him Lino or Ref, I find out their names, and I find that that personal touch as well gives you a slight advantage because they're going to listen to you. So with the linesman, that was it. I always used to say as well, just talk to me on the throw-ins, because when I was playing fullback, I didn't want to get pulled up for a foul throw or not take it from the right place, because it's just a cheap thing to give away.
Yeah.
So it's more just that communication, I think, and I'd like to say it's my dad who's, would say it's the right etiquette as well, and it probably is, but that's as much as it is, really.
Makes sense.
I think we noticed it as well, didn't we, at the Brentford game? I mean, on Sky, saw you speaking to the linesman, which was obviously the first time we'd seen it.
Yeah.
Kind of at St Andrews, so
get him on side.
Bit of interest.
Get him on side.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it's not completely sort of contrived, but it is an important thing to do, I think. I'll always, with the referees, and it's important to. You imagine how many people shout ref on the pitch, but if you shout their name, he's going to listen to you, hopefully. So, that's why.
Do you get frustrated when referees don't talk to players? It was a debate that was going on this week where they just tell you to go away, and there's not that level of communication. Do you think they're getting better at it, referees?
I think they're getting better, but they do get a lot of abuse as well from the players. So maybe, if you put yourself in their position, you probably wouldn't want to answer if someone's swearing at you, but it annoys me if you're actually just trying to have a genuine conversation or ask why he gave something or didn't give something, because if he can give you a legitimate reason why, then fair enough, and sometimes they do, and I say to them, fair enough, it was a good decision then, but it does annoy me if they're just waving their arms away at you, and I think they're getting better. I think everything's improving all the time. As the Premier League improves, everything has a knock-on effect, so the players in the Championship and also the referees.
Yeah. You touched upon how big a decision it was to leave Middlesbrough, but you also, the minute we were linked with you, we obviously trawled through social media, and the messages from Middlesbrough fans were like, he's talking about a character reference. That was like, we must be signing a top bloke, because they had nothing but amazing things to say.
Just didn't read the football parts.
Great guy, not great on the pitch.
Yeah, exactly. No.
But how is that just something that formed over time? Because it seemed like you had quite a special relationship with the fans up there.
Yeah, I definitely did have a special relationship, and it was built over time as well. I think I got involved in the community quite a lot, and both my daughters are little Teessiders. That's where they were born, so that was a big part of it for me, and they will always be Teessiders. I imagine they'll probably always support Middlesbrough. Well, my oldest one, who understands, but it was I was warmly welcomed from the off, and they embraced me as much as I embraced them, and it was a two-way thing, and it helps that I did some good things on the pitch as well, but it all fitted really, and my ambition really is to have something similar here at Birmingham. I know because of my age it's not going to be for the same time frame, but it doesn't mean that I can't hopefully achieve something here. And
Maldini played till 40, didn't he? Centre
yeah,
half, left footer. There's a lot of similarities.
You have
there.
watched me and watched Maldini, I'm sure. So I mean, I did try and have my hair like him for a while to see if that affected my football, but it had
it didn't work.
It was actually when the gaffer here was at Middlesbrough, I thought, right, Spanish manager, I'll get away with a headband, and it didn't really work for me. So yeah, exactly. So no, I'm excited about being at Birmingham and hope to build something here as well. And the Middlesbrough thing obviously will be held dearly to me, but it is in the past, and I'm concentrating now on doing my best here.
It's just a shame, given the current circumstances, that you haven't got that connection with the fans at match day, seeing them around the ground on your way in, even asking for pictures. It's almost at arm's length at the moment, so hopefully that can change, and that allows players to then, especially the new boys, there's so many of them, to really get that connection with the supporters.
Yeah, I think again it's a two-way thing. Like the fans maybe can't appreciate the players if just on a TV screen or on the radio or whatever. Excuse me, when you see them live. But at the same time, I've played against Birmingham. I know what the fans like there, but then to have them on your side, I still haven't experienced that. Yeah. So the sooner fans can come in when it's safe, obviously, the better, because football's not the same. I'll hold my hands up. I hate it without fans in there. I think it's rubbish. So I obviously understand why it can't happen, but it is frustrating because it's better for everyone.
What's your record like against Blues? Do you know? Do you ever remember you played? We were talking about this earlier about Wolves. I think
Wolves was
the FA Cup game, was it? Howard Webb.
The FA Cup game, the night game.
Yeah.
Andy Keogh scored, did he?
I think
for Wolves?
so. Yeah.
I remember that because that was the first time I met my father-in-law. So my wife and I were newly together there, and I said, "Oh, do you want to come?" Trying to think come to watch me play, but thinking it would impress her. Didn't really impress her because all she said she could remember is all the Wolves fans kept saying, "If you love Wolves, take your shoes off" or something.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know.
No.
But the atmosphere was good, and and I met her dad afterwards. But I did okay that game. I think I played left mid against a friend of mine who's Stuart Parnaby was playing for Blues at the time. Lee Carsley, Nigel Quasi maybe in the middle. Yeah. So I really enjoyed it. It was a great atmosphere, really good atmosphere, and a night game as well. Of course, I've watched the videos of the fans singing "Keep Ride On," all those things, and it is a special club, obviously. And even when I was growing up, I did enjoy. Trying to think who my hero was, but it was like Duggery up front, those guys. I think Bruce was manager, and Cunningham at the back, and Jeff Kenner, people like that, and that was the Premier League I grew up watching and enjoying. So it's great to be here.
What's a successful season for us, mate? Obviously, the gaffer is the one game at a time answer. And I know players are always looking no further than one game. But as we sit here now, it's still very early days. I'm sure the pieces of the puzzle may be added to in terms of players coming in. But in your mind, your first full season at the club, what would represent a successful one for you?
Well, normally I just say ask me at Christmas. Cause
it's a good midway point.
That's when you kind of know a bit more. I don't know. It's like I said before, the Championship, everyone says what an amazing league. You don't know, and I can't give a prediction now because we've had 2 good results. It'd be easy to say, we're going to go and win the league, but I don't think probably we're not there yet. But we know with this dressing room we've got that balance, that mixture that we can give it a good go. And just ask me again at Christmas and I'll give you an answer then.
That means we at least get a second appearance.
That's a verbal contract.
Well, I don't know if there'll be another one after this, and people probably already fallen asleep. So.
Nah, not at all. They have picked up on the fact that they think you are the nicest footballer in the game.
Oh, really?
I think it's the way your probably voice is very well spoken, but then I've heard you on the training pitch and on the match day. Yeah. It's a very different George Friend when you cross that line. Yeah,
you can be nice off it. It's important. I always remember when I was younger and someone said to me, "Oh, you need to be nastier, you need to be more aggressive." I'm thinking, I don't think I do, to be honest. I think I am myself. Yeah. I've always been really competitive, like ultra competitive. So I've never struggled with that really on the pitch. off the pitch. Yeah, it took me a while to get into football, to be honest. I'm a farmer from Devon originally, do you know what I mean? So it's not the ideal fit. I mean, I didn't start wearing trainers like casually till I was 24. So
wait a second.
Yeah,
what do you mean?
The Devon lifestyle.
What revelation is this?
So when I signed for Middlesbrough, I was just turning 24, and every day I'd wear shoes and a shirt. And that was...
Did you used to get battered in the dressing room?
Yeah, of course. I remember Marvin Emnes, striker, came up to me. He's like the coolest guy ever, like Dutch, so laid back, dreads down to his like back. And we didn't speak that much because he was way too cool for me. I didn't even know what to say to him. It was just us two in the changing room once, and I was putting my shoes on, buttoning up my shirt, thinking just normal attire. And he walked over to me, and I thought, what's he going to say? And he just sort of came over and he goes, "Hey George, man, it's not Saturday night," like that, and then walked off. And then it sort of hit me. Then I thought, well, he's right, really. Like
Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, I was like, I don't really need to be wearing shoes, but I never really wore trainers, and then from then on, really. So thanks to Marvin Emnes, I now wear trainers, and actually can't get me out of gym kit now because
you're the active wear.
Exactly.
24/7.
So no, it's just little things like that. I had quite a different sort of background to a lot of people that get into football. I know you get all sorts of people in football, but generally I was, as an English player, I was from a rugby background, and again it probably reflects my football when you watch me, but
kick and rush.
Exactly. But I wanted to be a rugby player until I was 16. I wasn't one of those kids that was like, oh, I have to be a footballer from when I could start walking. And I just loved all sports, to be honest. I would have chosen to be a professional in any sport if it was hockey, football. I just loved playing everything. So Johnny Wilkinson was my idol, all these things. So it was slightly different, and it took me a while to adapt to that football way and culture, but ultimately you're best off being yourself anyway, really.
Absolutely. Yeah, it takes us nicely into a bit of the conversation around how you came into professional football, and we always ask players where it all started, really, the love of the game. Now, listen to what you've just said. Most players will take you back to when they could just walk, but for you it sounds a little bit different. So where did the love of football come from you, and what was you like as your upbringing and as a child?
Yeah, again, I just played every sport, and that was all I wanted to do, was be a professional sportsman, but I never nailed down a sport. And then when I was 17, I had to make a decision, and Exeter City wanted me to sign there, and I decided to carry on and do my A-levels rather than signing for them. And I said, well, if they still want me, I'll be ready when I've finished. And I'd treat it as the old gap year. So that's what I did. I treated my first professional contract as a gap year.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind Exeter were in the conference then, so it wasn't as if I was getting paid big bucks, and it was, I've made it, and I thought, well, if I do all right, I'll keep going, and if I don't, I've got my deferred place at uni. So that was, again, it was a slightly different way of going into it, but I'm pleased. It was pushed by my parents as well. I'm pleased I did it that way, because it's enabled me to since go to uni while I've been playing as well. And then, obviously Exeter did well there, signed for Wolves, and just carried on ever since, really.
Yeah.
So I'm still in my gap year, I guess.
It's the longest gap year ever.
What's up there?
What did you study, George?
Journalism.
Oh, see?
Oh, don't get involved in that.
Nah, you don't want to. No joy in that.
No, exactly. So it was through the PFA, and I could do it while playing at Middlesbrough, and all the local press up there have been great, and it enabled me to get closer to them as well. But it also gave me appreciation for what you guys do, and it's not easy, and the time restraints and time limits you have, and of course nowadays as well with COVID and everything, it's much more difficult. So yeah, there was a lot of appreciation for the journos.
I feel like we need to enrol everybody on this course, because we very rarely hear it.
Could be on every week.
So Exeter, you done particularly well. What are your fondest memories from your time there? Because that's really early days, like you say. You're still being young and trying to get yourself into the pro game.
I was youngest captain in their history. I don't know if it still stands, to be honest. Probably not, because they've had some amazing players since me, like with Ollie Watkins and Matt Grimes and all those guys. Ethan Ampadu. Like, they've produced some amazing players. But getting promoted from non-league back into the Football League at Wembley, that was the highlight for Exeter, without a doubt. And I was doing it with two of my closest friends in football at the time, and it was amazing to be part of that. I probably didn't even realise how good a time that was, but looking back, it was great.
Yeah, and then obviously because your performances were clearly up there, there's a bit of interest from Wolves. How does that come about and that move? And did you have to think about it? 'Cause it's a big change.
It's really bad. It's either Wolves or Bristol City. And again, I used to just go to Exeter and play. I didn't really know football very much. Again, from a farming background, probably knew more about cows and tractors than I did football.
When you say you're from a farming background, is this a family business as well?
Yeah, my dad's a farmer and my brother's now got the farm. I've got an older brother, so he was always going to take it on. So I used to help out now and then, but I'd get everything wrong. Break things, crash tractors, all sorts. So it wasn't for me, even though it was part of growing up. But when Wolves came in, I remember asking the two lads I was living with, what's Wolves like? Is it a good club?
You're a bit oblivious.
And they were like, well, yeah, it's better than Exeter. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll go for it. And in all honesty, I wasn't ready to be playing for Wolves then, and that reflected in the amount of appearances I made. I think I made 8 or 10 appearances in all over the 2 years. And what was great though is I learnt a lot under Mick McCarthy. He was brilliant. A lot of people might think, because I didn't play, I'm going to resent that. But actually I wouldn't have played me. I wasn't ready. And it was a great learning experience for me to be around those good players there. We got promoted to the Premier League. I was part of that, though I hadn't played that much. I was still part of that journey. And I also made my Premier League debut at Old Trafford.
Standard.
That was, an amazing time in my career as well. And it was the game you'll probably remember where Mick McCarthy made 10 changes.
I do remember it.
And he got done for it. But then the week after we beat Burnley, so it kind of vindicated his decision.
I bet he couldn't wait to go into the press conference after that Burnley game, and they'd won the game.
What was great about Mick McCarthy is if you were his player, he'd back you to the hills, and that spoke volumes about him. And I didn't care. It was my Premier League debut. It just didn't matter to me, even though Paul Scholes was zigging the ball around everywhere. But so those experiences were great, and I needed to move on after that. So I went to Doncaster for more of get games. 2 years in the Championship with them, and that was excellent. Learnt a lot under Sean O'Driscoll and Richard O'Kelly, who's now Dean Smith's assistant at Villa, and that enabled me to get my move to Middlesbrough. So it was an important stepping stone and a good time to really get some games under my belt.
Yeah, it sounds like that Doncaster move is the one where that's where the football really kicked in and you started to play regularly.
And I sort of learnt, right, if I'm serious about this, I've got to really knuckle down and play some games. And I played a bit centre-half, left-back there as well. So I actually signed for Borough as potentially a centre-half, but then Joe Bennett left and Tony Mowbray said, right, you're playing left-back, and again, didn't look back really after that.
Yeah. Take us through your 8 years at Borough, how you look back on it
Just
all.
quickly
I don't know how you...
You've got 2 minutes.
To be honest, Harley's already pulled it on me. He says, if you mention Borough again, I'm going to find you. So I don't want to talk too much about it. And also, look, I can sum it up. I had a great time. I was... I got promotion with them. I was fortunate enough to captain the club there as well. So
scored a screamer.
Yeah.
Or 2.
Yeah, but again, don't expect too many more of them. But it was brilliant. But I made that decision to leave, which wasn't easy. But I'm pleased I've made it, and I'm here, and I'm really looking forward to what comes ahead in this season, next season, and the future with the Blues.
2 games in, you played centre-half, both of them, converted centre-half at the end of last year.
Yeah.
Started to play games there. Do you feel at home alongside that settled back four? I mean, it looks like in the first 2 games, Max, you, Harley and Peds have got a good relationship already.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Christian's a character.
God.
He's a funny lad.
This could be a feature.
Do you know what, though? He's an absolute athlete. He's a brilliant player, and I'm excited for him because having played that position as well, I can see what he can offer there, and I just want to encourage him all the time because I know what he's capable of, and I think he's really showing it. And he, for me, he could be the best left back in the league, hands down. So I hope he proves that this year, because it means we'll be doing well as well. And in terms of the other lads, I think what I said before is, I think anyone could be playing in that back four that's in this squad as a defender and know what's expected of them. expected of them, Obviously, Robbo's an excellent centre half. We've signed Mikel as well. I know can play there. Even young G, I've been impressed with him as well. So I've built up a bit of a partnership with Harley, and that's helped because I knew him a little bit, like friend of a friend before, and met him before. And he's a great character. He's settled here. He's securing himself, confident, played well for the club for a while. So that helps, and he's been really good as well. And I think he's actually played really well the first 2 games.
Can we talk about his overhead kick that he scored in training?
Yeah. Well, if I don't, I'm sure he will. So no, it was outstanding. I think everyone was seriously surprised. I mean, there is a drone that records training. So
We've already got it. Yeah,
so I mean, that footage is excellent. I mean, the week before I had probably my best Friday where I was saving stuff off the line, but I would have traded all of those great blocks for that one overhead because it was like Gareth Bale in the Champions League final. It hit the bar as well. Yeah. I mean, it was it was special.
Yeah. How have the Spanish boys all settled in? There's often when you get some Spanish lads join the club, you like to think they're not isolated because you've got obviously the manager and his backer staff, but there's a little clique of them now as well, which I think will at least make them feel more at home. How have they settled into the group?
Excellently. They all speak good English, which helps, and I think it's important in the same way as if an English player went to Spain. I think it's important they learnt Spanish, so it's good they've got that togetherness between themselves, which is important. You don't want one lonely Spaniard, I guess, do you? You want them all to be together, but at the same time it doesn't feel like they're a clique. I mean, they're all easily able to converse and joke with all of us, so I try out my Spanish now and then with them.
How is it?
It's okay. I mean, it could be a lot better, but
GCSE, A levels.
Well, I just learnt a bit when we signed a lot of Spanish players at Borough. I thought, right, I'll try and help with the, for them to integrate. I mean, I think a few of them sort of look to me in a funny way, but especially when they probably speak better English than I can. So, no, it's great. It's great to have them here. I think it's good to have. We're saying about the different ages in the squad, but to have diverse cultures and people playing from different leagues and coming from different places, because it all adds something together.
Yeah. Finally, from us, there's a bit of depth there as well now. And we talked about the hectic fixture list, and you've already said that the squad's got to be ready. You looked at the bench on last weekend. Gary Gardner, Scott Hogan, Dan Crowley, real quality that can come in, and they're going to be needed, aren't they?
Yeah, and you've still got lads coming back from injury as well that maybe fans haven't seen on paper yet in the squads, but you've got Josh and Lico coming back as well. So that's 2 strong players for us as well. Mikel's not been part of it, so it's actually going to be an achievement to get in the squad, I think, because it's we've got a lot of players that might be disappointed. So it's a nice problem for the manager, but it's certainly needed in this league because you're not going to start with the same team you finish with, and when I think it's around Christmas, I had a little look at the fixtures the other day, and it gets seriously hectic.
The whole month, December.
I mean, it's gonna be testing for everyone, and if you've got a bigger squad, it certainly makes it easier.
Yeah, those 32-year-old legs will be tested in December.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice heavy pitches.
Yeah.
George, thank you ever so much for taking time out. You've been an absolute pleasure, mate.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
The Blues Talk podcast with Dale Moon and Callum Denning.
One of the nicest blokes in football, George Friend, living up to his name.
Yeah, what I quite like about him is that when he's on the pitch, he doesn't come across as a nice guy.
Not at all.
But how many players are told that down the years? You have to be a different character when you cross that white line, and I think he slotted in there perfectly alongside Harley. As I say, gives just that natural balance, and you can see what he brings. Heads everything, organises other players. He's another leader on there, and I don't, you don't have to have a captain's armband to be a leader. Adam Clayton was the loudest player on the pitch at Swansea, and actually being in the stadium, obviously the sound echoes around the empty stands. You can hear Adam Clayton's voice above everybody else. So there's a few out there now. I mean, there's no, that's it. There's a few. You look down the spine of that team now, and it's a strong, seasoned, proven, professional spine of a championship football team.
And with more to come in as well in terms of leadership. I mean, Mikel San Jose in his interview spoke about bringing that to the squad.
Yeah. Well, with his experience alone, he'll be able to offer and have been in situations that perhaps some haven't. And his age, the fact that he's crossed the 30 boundary means that he's got plenty of years behind him now. So that's it. And you can see there's the manager clearly felt like he needed to bring in these characters. You look at the ages that he's recruited, take away Lico, who's obviously one for the future, but your Etheridge, your Clayton, your Friend, your San Jose, these are all around the 30 mark players who've been there and done it. So I think he feels that that's the way to get out of this division, or at least do well in it. And like we say, it'd be nice just to steer clear of danger and look to build now.
Absolutely. Well, on to this weekend then, the first match against one of the 6 new sides in the Championship this season, Rotherham United, with a familiar face in their ranks.
Yeah, Wes Harding returns to St Andrews, so it'd be good to see him. Picked up a yellow card on his debut, fair play to him. But cracking guy. We done a piece with him early on after he just broke into the first team, Wes, and I think he, towards the end, probably felt he weren't getting a fair chance. He was being played out of position, asked to do a job for the team, sometimes at left back, left wing back at one stage. He sees himself as a right back. He will get that chance at Rotherham, maintains his Championship status as well. And as a player, makes the decision to leave a club to go in pursuit of first team football, which I won't knock any player for.
No.
So credit to him. Be good to see him back down here, but hopefully it's not a successful visit. Obviously, one of the sides. I mean, naturally, whenever you come up to a new division, you are among the favourites to go straight back down. But they've already won this season. Beat Wickham, lost to Millwall, but they're both 1-0ers, so either way, they're in the games. And it'll be a tough proposition for us because Brentford and Swansea, I think it's fair to say we weren't expected to go and win those games and dominate the ball, and you know, us being the ascendancy for the lion's share of the game. Rotherham at home is a fixture on paper, whether you like it or not, that supporters will look at and say, right, how now do we go and break down a team who are going to come here as we went to Swansea, as we played against Brentford,
Defend.
and make life difficult? Yeah, and you know, I'm sure they'll try and win the game themselves at times, but we have to be the home team in form with this optimism around to really take the game to Rotherham and find a way of breaking them down, because I think that's what we've struggled to do over the past couple of years. I think at countless occasions over the past 2-3 years where we've played sides at home and we haven't had the creative nous, that intelligence, a little bit of intricate play around an 18-yard box to break down these teams, and then we get caught on the counter or a set piece and we lose a game, and it's really frustrating. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what the very different complexion to the game on Saturday.
I think we know as well, don't we, how resolute Paul Warne's Rotherham can be. We look back to when they were last in the Championship, going there towards the end of the 2018-19 season, needing a win to confirm survival. We went in 1-0 down. Rotherham were excellent that half.
Yeah, really like him. Really like the way he comes across on his interviews. Quite a charismatic manager. He get a bit teary when they got relegated.
He did, yeah.
I think he wears, clearly, a man who wears his heart on his sleeve. But yeah, we had to change systems, if I remember right. We changed to a diamond in the second half, which they couldn't adjust to. But as you say, for the first 45 minutes, they make life difficult. I mean, they've got 2 huge lads up front, and they launch the ball into the box. So expect that on Saturday. They are looking to ask questions. They are direct. They had a long throw-in from almost the halfway line when we last played them a couple of years ago. So it's going to be a tough one. And those boys at the back, we spoke about George Friend, Harley Dean, if they're the 2 to play, along with Pedersen and Colin, are going to have to stand up to the physical challenge, because no matter what you say about styles of play and whether it's ugly or not, it can be effective if you get it right. And when you've got 2 of them to deal with, there will be a handful. So make sure we do that right and stand up to that threat first and go from there. But you know, I fully expect us to really take the game to them on Saturday.
And then next weekend, we go to a place where I think it's not unfair to say was one of the low points last season, up to Stoke. Of course, 2-0 defeat last time out. Steve Spooner and Craig Gardner in caretaker charge. Just, it was one of those moments, wasn't it, last season where everything looked against us.
Yeah, I felt like we nearly bottomed out against Stoke. It was one where that could have been 5 or 6
easily.
You know, they scored a really good goal through Klukas, but in reality, we got dominated in that game. The system didn't quite look right, and Steve Spooner admitted after the game he had to change it. I think Craig Gardner admitted they got it wrong. Players not quite in position, but it was more than that. It was just the whole mood and how he went into it. So, yeah, there has to be, and I fully expect us to go there, regardless of the Rotherham game, with a completely different game. And you know what, Stoke could be better than they were last season. They've got some real good season pros in there. Jonathan McKell.
Yeah,
going,
random.
going there. But you add that to what they've already got. Michael O'Neill, obviously very experienced international manager, now at Stoke. I think it'll be a tough one, but I expect it to be closer than it was last year because that wasn't the real Blues.
I think it's almost a chance, isn't it? And with Halloween coming up, to exercise those demons. That was an awful link.
Scarily good.
Yeah, well, that's even worse. But yeah, a chance to rectify that mood from that season, isn't it? And show that we are almost a new club.
Yeah, that's it. And because it comes so quickly as well, it will... it's an instant chance for us to go there and get a result. I remember that the Shea Adams one was a really good visit there, wasn't it? When he slid in at the back post and
Gary Rowett sent off.
Got loads, didn't he? And the fan base was proper there. I mean, we're right behind that goal. I mean, we have a great view of it at the Bet365, and that was a fantastic visit. But yeah, like I say, we have to go there and put in a better performance than we did before, and a chance to do that so quickly within a matter of months is important, and to show that there has been progress made. But it doesn't even feel like the same club, Cal. You look, the whole mood. I mean, we're privileged. As I said again when we spoke to Harley, we're privileged to be close to it.
Yep.
And since the gaffer walked through the door, nine fresh faces. All of them are going to bring something to the squad. He's building something here, which you like to think is far. It's far too good to be in the predicament we've been in these past few years. Now, I get there's a long way to go. It's a condensed season, so the squad's going to be tested. We're going to pick up injuries. We're going to go through runs where it doesn't quite work. And I like the gaffer before the Swansea game. He said, if you think that we can play as we played against Brentford every game and win, then you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
I think he said that, then there's a problem. And he's right. We beat Brentford, but that second half, they've had forced a double save from Zach, who we spoke about. They've hit the bar, they've hit the post in the first half. So let's not kid ourselves. It's far from perfect. There's still lots of ground for improvement. But the early signs are at least good, and I think everyone is sensing that and can feed off that. And that in itself, it turns into a bit of a snowball effect going into a really busy winter. Now you get the 2 games a week coming in because of this condensed season.
Can't wait. It's almost down to like the tiniest sparks, though, isn't it? Like people turning up with smiles on their faces this year.
But yeah, that's it. And that's all the difference is. The results lifts everybody. But at the same time, fresh faces that aren't scarred by last year. So they're coming in. They've joined a new club, big club as well. They've moved to a new area, a big city. So they're full of optimism. Their excitement and then becomes contagious and infectious in the dressing room. Because they're leaders and they're the right personalities as well. It harvests a culture there that if you do get a bad egg or someone does come in there that's not quite right, it governs itself, the dressing room. Aitor Karanka, and you heard from Harley, he's not a manager who's going to talk to you all the time and try and feed you information. He puts the right people in the right places. There are square pegs in square holes or round pegs in round holes, and they're all doing their job. There's a clear idea as to how we're going to play, how he wants to set his team up. Clearly, there's a manager with knowledge in there. So everything at the moment, and probably just the Blues fan in us should be worried. Everything at the moment is at least heading in the right direction, but we're 2 games in. So let's just put the brakes on a little bit. Take it. Oh, it's so cliche.
I know.
I'm not even going to say it. See how we get on against.
Take it one game at a time, Dale.
See how we get on against Rotherham, and look forward to hopefully a better season than we had last year.
Well, listen, if you want to take it one game at a time with us, you can join us on Blues TV this weekend. Pay-per-view, £10 to all supporters in the UK. Who are you joined by, Dale?
Yeah, so we have the return of Paul Tate, absolute legend. He sadly couldn't fulfil the role last year. He initially started, didn't he? Done first 6 games or so for us, but for whatever reason, couldn't make it. He's back by popular demand, not afraid to really... I think what we get from Paul Tate is the real fans' opinion.
Yeah.
He is in touch with those on the terraces, so he'll say it as it is, which is brilliant. Darren Purse on co-commentary with me as well. Percy's been fantastic, real good addition to the Blues TV team last year. He's got a real coach's mind, but also he's been there and done it at the club. So real good, pundit and co-commentator for Saturday. Hopefully we get the result to go with it.
I think it's great as well, isn't it, having that kind of almost cast of ex-players on Blues TV. Of course, every game now available to UK fans for £10. It is a chance for a variety of opinions to be aired.
Yeah, definitely. We're always looking to add to that pool as well. You look, Jeff Kennecombe had done a game for us.
He did.
Last season. I think Nicky Eden done a game for us last year when we needed someone to fill in. But you've got Percy, Paul Tate back now as well. Darren Carter, when he's obviously not with Solly or Moores, will come in. Kevin Broadhurst for the miserable games, as Harley Dean put it. So there are Adili Adebola, of course, not forgetting Dealey, who done most games for us last year. We are trying to obviously expand the pool of players that we use. It's good to hear a variety of takes on the match as well. And they've all got something different to bring. Brian Hughes from a coaching aspect, he's obviously done his badges and been in management recently. Darren Purse coaching development teams now at Oxford. Darren Carter still in the game. So they all bring something different to our coverage. And yeah, looking forward to again rotating them and working with them all this season.
Well, if you can, please do join us on Blues TV for Rotherham on Saturday, Stoke next weekend, and over the course of the season. £10 pay-per-view. If you're international, if you're not in the UK, you can subscribe for £110, I think, per season, or $15.99 a month. So yeah, please do show your support for the Blues and join us here on Blues TV. But for the meantime, Dale, I think that's it. Anything else you want to get off your chest?
No, I think the optimism is talking for itself at the moment.
Absolutely.
So let's see what Saturday brings. Looking forward to seeing that. Again, the only sour point is the announcement from the government this week, meaning that they've done all those pilot schemes to try and get some supporters back into grounds. They were looking at doing a number of games. That's obviously postponed indefinitely for now, which puts back, again, just a bit of a hammer blow in that fans aren't going to be returning to stadiums anytime soon. And that is the only sour point, especially we're drumming up all this optimism and hype around this season, and supporters aren't there to see it, which is a real dampener. But hopefully we get them back at some stage into the new year, because it just isn't the same.
I think I saw the phrase "typical Blues" used quite a bit on Twitter about the fact fans can't come in and be part of this optimism. But listen, it'll happen one day. We'll have fans back through the door, and what a day it'll be. But for the time being, I've been Callum Denning.
And I've been Dale Moon.
And this has been the Blues Talk Podcast.
The Blues Talk Podcast with Dale Moon and Callum Denning.